We packed up our lives in the United States and moved internationally in 26 days, and our friends and community had a lot of questions.
Hi, my name's Scott.
And I'm Lauren, and we just moved to France. Of course, the people in our lives had a lot of questions about this move, so we are going to go over three of the top questions today and talk about it with you. The first question is, why France? I think one of the reasons we picked the location that we did was because it is well located and well situated. It's really easy to get around the rest of Europe from here. It's also easy to visit North African countries, which we're really excited to potentially get into. And we are living somewhere that has an international airport. When and if we need it, we could go back to visit the United States, or like Scott has been saying, more importantly, people can come visit us.
In addition to being centrally located, the lack of a need for a car also factored into this move and deciding where we wanted to go. As far as location goes, we did want to be in a spot that didn't require us to have a car, which ties into our next reason for moving here, the culture. I would say the work-life balance. There seems to be a greater emphasis on the little things in life. Also, placing a greater respect for art. As an artist, I find it visually stimulating to be in an area that's fairly different. And the food. Having high quality food available to us at reasonable prices was important.
I think one of the last and most important reasons that we chose France was because there were still things that were very familiar. There are things that we can get access to here that we were used to getting access to in the United States. And we just touched on a little bit that the culture is different, of course, but there are still a lot of crossovers that would make this transition a little bit easier than going somewhere where it was going to be completely different and a really huge shock. Scott talked about the grocery stores that we've been exploring, which have a lot of the same things that we're used to seeing in our grocery stores. There are delivery services and good access to Wi-Fi, which is important because we both work from home. And there's also a decent amount of English speakers here, which we know this is France, but there are a decent amount of people who speak English that can help ease that transition as we get into this.
Which brings us to our next most commonly asked question. Do we speak French? And I've been saying, je parle un peu français, which means I speak very little French. Well, actually, it doesn't mean literally. Although neither of us speaks fluent French, we've been using language learning apps on our phones for many weeks, months leading up to this move.
I'm using it for weeks. I have over 1,000 days of Duolingo.
And practicing it in our everyday conversations with people throughout this entire move. A lot of the conversations that we've had with people in deliveries and getting paperwork done, we found that a lot of native French speakers say that they don't speak English at all, but I found that we've been able to piece it together with the amount of English that they speak and the amount of French that we speak that we can generally communicate.
I would definitely say that I have a higher level of French understanding than Scott because I took it in high school, but anyone who's taken language in United States high school knows that it's not necessarily the best way to learn a language, and it's been a long time since I've been in high school. I think that there is so much value in learning the language because it goes back to the cultural point. So we will be taking classes. There are so many opportunities for language exchange here. And there's also a lot of people who do tutoring. And I think taking private tutoring lessons, each of us taking our own lessons, will be really helpful because for me, speaking it can be a lot. It makes me a little bit shy to speak, but at this point, since we're living here, I don't have the option to be shy about it. So I think doing that practice and going back and forth with someone who is a tutor and who can provide feedback is going to be really useful for us.
So for our last most frequently asked question, was this move politically motivated? When I am asked that question from friends and family, I've been answering it pretty much the same, and that's been not entirely, but I would definitely say that the election in the United States expedited our time frame for this move.
I mean, we definitely had plans on moving internationally at some point in our lives and in our relationship. Neither of us has traveled a ton, and so it was something that we were really interested in, and finding a spot where we could kind of set up. But the US election definitely inspired us to get it together a little bit faster and get moving on that whole plan. I also like to give a special shout out to the Exodus Summit community, which is a community for Black women run by Black women who talk about taking sabbaticals and taking vacations and moving out of the United States and experiencing life abroad. With this community, I have been able to see women of all ages in all different types of life situations set up abroad and have amazing experiences. And that was really inspiring to me. So, like I said, this is not something that we jumped into just because of an election, because this is something that I've had a Google Doc and been planning since I was introduced to the Exodus community. And I'm really grateful that I had those plans and I had that community support.
There was actually a fourth question that was asked pretty frequently, which was, what do we do about our cats when we were traveling? Although we could tell you in this video, there was quite a bit of process involved with transporting cats across the ocean. So we're going to save that for our next video and talk about that a little bit more in depth.
At this stage in the process, we are feeling super grateful and still super overwhelmed. We have a lot going on, and there were a lot more questions, and I'm sure we will continue getting questions. And I'm sure there are questions that we haven't even asked ourselves yet that we will be sharing with you all through these videos. But if you have any questions specifically, you can drop them in the comments, let us know what you think. And if you're someone who moved from the United States to France, we would love to hear from you.
Thanks for watching, and see you next time.